Hello everybody and welcome to the conference organized by the European Liberal Forum and Republikon. I think it's a very topical issue that you will be discussing. And quite frankly, this is not only about the situation in one EU member state, namely Hungary. This is a more general question about how do we uphold the common values of the European Union. If you look at the European treaties, you'll see that basically in Article 1 they say hello everybody, but then Article 2 of the treaties, that is actually the core of European integration, because in Article 2 our common values are laid down. The common values of democracy, the rule of law and fundamental rights. And after Article 2 everything else, all other policy areas follow. But Article 2 is really the core of our community of values, of our political union. But we find out that in practice the European Union has not doted itself with the means to actually uphold those values in practice. We have instruments to punish member states, for example, who are granting illegal state aid or who haven't implemented the environmental standards, or punishing cartels or what have you. But when it's about violations of democracy, the rule of law and fundamental rights, the European Union has very few instruments. And we have seen in recent years that sometimes the European Commission or the European Parliament are trying to intervene in a member state when there are concerns about the state of democracy, the rule of law and fundamental rights, like in Hungary, more recently in Poland, but also in other EU member states. And then there is a general backlash, because even people in Hungary, for example, who are not in agreement with the government, they don't like to be told by others, or that's the way it's felt by people. And that is why in the European Parliament we are now trying to move forward, rather than being stuck in criticism on one particular member state and not seeing much progress in tackling the causes of our concern. We are looking at a mechanism for upholding democracy, the rule of law and fundamental rights across the European Union in an objective manner, evidence-based, a mechanism that monitors all member states in an equal manner, and also the EU institutions. And that is not incident-driven or crisis-driven, but that is monitoring on a permanent, ongoing basis. And that means that we will be able to identify, let's say, a trend that is cause for concern at an early stage. It also means that we will have an annual scoreboard with country reports that will be the basis for an annual parliamentary debate that will allow citizens across the European Union to shape and define our common values in a public debate, because that's the way that we do these things. Because now our common values are laid down in the treaties, the Charter of Fundamental Rights, also other documents like the European Convention on Human Rights. But that is paper. Now we really need to put it into practice. And we hope that this broader mechanism is going to help us overcome the worrisome situation that we see in some member states. And make no mistake about it, we have very deep concerns about the direction taken by the Hungarian government, but also by the Polish government, but also the French government, for example, that seems to be heading in the direction of a semi-permanent state of emergency, or let's say the Lithuanian government or the Lithuanian parliament, which is repeatedly trying to adopt anti-gay laws, or other countries where maybe the independence of the judiciary is under pressure, or freedom of the media is under pressure, or freedom of religion is under pressure. But if we adopt this mechanism, which is a broad mechanism that applies to all member states equally, then it will be less toxic, if you want. And people will actually embrace and trust the process. And in conclusion, why is this important? Why is upholding those values so important? Not only as a purpose in itself, because I do think that the European Union is a community of values, and that means we have to uphold those values, but also because it is the basis for the functioning of the European Union. If there is no mutual trust in our legal systems, for example, then there cannot be police and justice cooperation. If we have no common values when it comes to freedom of expression or citizens' rights, then we cannot jointly fight terrorism. When we have no common values when it comes to, for example, gender equality or freedom of religion or LGBT rights, then how are we going to integrate newcomers, refugees for example, into our society? So you see, if we want to have common EU policies in a wide range of areas, then they will all have to be based on common values defined and shaped in a public debate. So I hope that this debate and also the debate we've had about the situation in Hungary is going to help the European Union move forward, solidify and define and flesh out our common values. And I think, quite frankly, that liberals have to play a key role in that process. And therefore I'm honored to be rapporteur for the mechanism for upholding democracy, the rule of law and fundamental rights. And I hope that my short introduction will contribute to your debates. I wish you a very fruitful conference. Goodbye.